Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay. All right. So, hello, everyone. I've had a little bit of an intense day, and I thought I'd record something, and the title arose Bowing to the Beyond. And in the title, I've written an untouchable love, but I also wanted to write, something in the lines of how recently I've realized, my metaphysical insights have taken me to a point. This was actually after the last episode, where for a moment I came into this consideration that I no longer needed to be a being. As the days are passing by, as I am walking in this world, more and more I'm realizing there is less to say and how it's all being here. The story that a human being can tell themselves is a story where there is a space provided for the character's change. If we have an impression that the meaning of life is to not change, we create our own heartbreak. There's a saying said by this man named Sri Ramana Maharshi. He says there will come a moment where everything you have learned must be forgotten, or will be forgotten. And so, when I was younger, even now I'm trying to keep my attention in the world. I'm trying to say that when I was younger, it was more like, treating this reality like there's something to do, something specific to do. And it does appear that way. There's many specific things we can do. But the way I find my attention has matured is that the significance I held for the outer realms is becoming more obvious that it is an inner event. So think of it this way, that a human being is experiencing two events. One event is objective, the other event is subjective. Sorry guys, I don't know if this was being heard. Okay, it was. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that my inner realms, when they are aligned with the outer realms, the purpose feels justified. When the inner realms is not aligned to the outer realms, it's pretty much, I'm saying there's an objective event, subjective event, two events happening at the same time. In order to give our lives meaning, the inner event, the subjective event, is moving faster than the objective event. But sometimes in life, when you lose inspiration, the inner realm can slow down to such a degree where the person has no expectation of the outer realms. And I think in the past couple days or past week, what I've been experiencing has been, in some sense, a detachment of my inner expectations of the outer. You know, I'm someone who, some have considered I sound, sometimes in these lectures, perhaps the impression comes off that, I'm speaking from a mighty place. But there has been many moments in this life, if out of all the things that have happened to me, one of the things that has created the biggest reaction has been moments where I have felt that my heart has been sealed. I'm going to share with you a story. In 2016, I think it was, I was born in Iran, so in 2016 I was in Rishikesh, India for 2 months and living in an ashram. And then afterwards, because it was close by to Iran where I was born, I went to visit there my family. And so I have a twin brother, and my brother and my parents, there's this place that in Iran people go for pilgrimage. And it would translate into Imam Reza's tomb. It's in this place called Mashhad in Iran. So what happens is, me and my family go there, we go into the place, and my mother, who has religion is important to her, she tells us all to go into the corner of this mosque, this giant mosque, which is Imam Reza's tomb. And we go into a corner of the mosque, and my mother says, let's pray here. So me, my brother, and my father and mother, it's like 4 people, we've created a small square at the corner of this mosque and the outside of it, and we are praying there. During the experience of the prayer, I experienced something, and when we were all praying, I see this in my inner realms, I see this very bright, white, glowing being come and put its hand on my mother's head, on my brother's head, and on my father's head, but it doesn't put its hand on my head, and it leaves. And I don't know why. It was after the prayer, my father, brother, mother were very cheerful, but I was broken after this experience. We go to this hotel there, and the hotel had free shuttles to the mosque and whatnot. And so we go to this hotel, everybody sleeps. I can't sleep. And I remember there was a Quran, a holy book with English translation. And so everybody's asleep. I get up, I get this book, and I walk, and I get the shuttle, and I go back to the mosque alone. I go to the mosque, and the same time I enter it, there is something where it's like morning prayer, where everybody automatically stands, in an act of prayer. And coincidentally, I find myself exactly the moment I enter the mosque, and where I'm walking, the event is happening. So what happens is I feel that this feeling, the reason I'm sharing this story is because I felt my heart was sealing. Okay, my heart, I felt something was off. So I go into the corner of the mosque, and I think it was hours. I read I think it was like 100 pages of the holy book and whatnot. And I reach this point, there's this emotion that I'm not feeling, right? And I'm trying to restore. And after hours of just non-stop, imagine somebody who felt something's wrong but don't know what it is and is trying all he can to restore, right? And anyways, what happens is, after that long time, I remember I get a feeling to go pray again, and I go back to the same spot, and I'm praying there alone. And the moment I finish my prayer, there was this window in front of me, and the sun comes out. That means the moment I stand up, the sunlight exactly hits the window. And I remember I come back home, come back to the hotel, and I just sleep there, feeling as if that feeling that I felt I was missing, the feeling came back. It was the sense of decency, because more than what's doing something wrong that it's wrong, doing something wrong that you don't know even if it's right or wrong, like that's like heavy, What I'm trying to tell you in this episode is that I've had many moments in this life throughout the day where I've just stopped what I'm doing, and I've just bowed to the presence of the moment. And when I say bowing to the beyond, there is this idea in religion of the submission of the ego, in the sense that the ego is an artificial life, and once the ego is gone, the idea of self is gone. One is only left with reality. in religion they would say the divine will. You know, ideas come into the mind of a person based on the type of actions they do. And so I would say this year has been this intense year for me, where I have not only had to acknowledge the strange fact or the strange idea that the expectation of the type of preparation for the future that one's had may not be enough. And so, you know, I have this 80-year-old grandfather, and, you know, I was talking to him, and he was saying that, you know, he's having, you know, the struggle of moving his body, you know, and he was a very big guy, you know, in his youth. And so, you know, I looked at it and I'm like, wow, the type of world we're in. All of us who have been conditioned to just think it's happiness. You know, it's like, you know, at some point the human being, I guess, you see your own weakness. All the lies that the person has told themselves, you know, they will see it. What that means is all the, I don't want to say our minds are untrue, but the way that we entertain our own humanness, the way that we consider to be a character in a story, once the unknown enters our life, the meaning of life changes, and everything that you had held on to, you will feel that it's present in the unknown. And so this is the bizarre thing, that we are born in a situation trying to attain knowledge, trying to claim certainty. But what is the world whispering to us? What is the world even shouting at us? It is shouting that there is other ways the moment can move. And so I have reached this sort of contentment. I think it's one of the final contentments. The contentment of movement. You see, to give freedom to something, it means not to interfere. And to give freedom to yourself, it's like not to interfere with yourself. So a creature, a being that has been conditioned to be a character, imagine running towards being, and then realizing there's nowhere to run to. The acceptance of the nature of the world is surpassing the knowledge that gives us comfort to be here. Do you see? This is, I don't know, but I think I have endured it. The amount of meaninglessness. This is why there is this urge for the inner realms to be seen, because the aloneness of it is not enough. In other words, it's like this poetry where God just being God alone in the world was not enough. You know, the Buddha talked about detachment. Buddha said that your desire for wanting something in this realm is what gives you suffering, because if you hold it, you may lose it. If you don't get it, you feel you know, a little bit broken. And honestly, it's like this feeling where I'm like, world, you do all these things and you put us here to assign meaning to it. But what is the meaning? You know, I have this emotion right now where I'm like, okay, I've been attempting to live for an inner realm expectation of the outer realm that is way more advanced than what it is here now. I think about reality being split in regards to the past, present, future. I think about who I am now, who I was, and who I will be. The future is in some sense clothed in the unknown. The future is unknown. The past used to be known. The present is being known. When I wonder about what the purpose of my past senses of self have been, they have been to get the future senses of self here. And so what if this pattern can be applied to, in some sense, rather than a species obsessed with self-preservation, it's another way of saying the past self was serving the future self. The past species, the past of the species is serving the future of the species. And the past of the world is serving a future world. You see, it could even be considered a scale of being. Right now we're a human being. Well, we're at that scale, so to us, like a giant being entering the world, we'll be fascinated by it, right? Now, for a species, I think that the improvement is, in some sense, advanced civilizations. And an advanced civilization is another way of saying a species' potential was witnessed, was activated as the greatest potential of a species. Because right now, when I think about my past, you know, I mean, I've had the privilege of recording who I was in the past. But the past goes away. I mean, it doesn't go away, but we pass through it. We pass through our past. And so, if the meaning of life is going through life, then the attachment to life doesn't make sense, right? That means, imagine this world, this plane of existence is a tunnel. And you're going through this tunnel, and midway in the tunnel, you're like, I'm gonna live here. You know? Imagine you stop your car in a tunnel of a road and you're like, yo man, I'm gonna park here, and you're gonna see, no, you can't stay here because many beings are passing through the tunnel. You know, it would be such a different world if we were immortal. You know, maybe I don't have anything else to say. And so, you know, maybe the moment has come where I must just become a microphone. Taken before shared, what was lost? A being speaks only to realize what is listening is beyond the words. Many come, many go. Our attachment to life is starting from a temporary consideration. Fear is for the temporary. The eternal do not fear. Why? There's nothing to fear. And perhaps the fear of nothing makes us forget everything. So far, the attention of the individual notices its limits, and at some point wonders what greater extension of ability can connect to it. The idea can follow in the sense that if you are required to move, there needs to be a mover. If the mover is not an idea, individualism is not real. So in the sense that what is speaking right now, if I consider the voice, yes. If I consider the body, yes, there's something here. But when I notice that everything that I have spoken, every movement I have done has been in an observing presence, there is something watching our life through us. We are not. The shape of life is actually a changing one. It changes slow on earth, so we can have emotions about it. If life was changing faster than you can consider, in some sense, what sort of being could be considered? So it's fair to say that we are experiencing some sort of time dilation between the inner realms and outer realms. I think this is why we feel present, right? Similar to how Einstein was saying, like, somebody can sit on a train, the train can move very fast, but to them they experience a sort of stillness. Similarly, we are going through various experiences, but it's all appearing to us as a present moment, right? It could be that consciousness is some sort of transcendental transport mechanism. There are many beings, and once there is space, the being can actually identify with something. Most people, their emotions arise when some sort of inner space is denied. Your consciousness is playing your life like an instrument. It has an expectation of the type of melody it wants to play throughout the day. Now imagine an artist, someone's about to play the greatest melody, and suddenly somebody comes and like starts interfering, doesn't let them play the instrument. So in some sense, what happens, the artist gets fed, the musician gets fed up, and it fights to return to the melody of its own inner expectation. So what I feel this week, I guess, these 2 weeks, I have been experiencing has been this realization that I have been playing this instrument very well, okay? When I say I've been playing it very well, that means I have not been interrupted in playing the instrument. For example, in giving these talks. But at some point, imagine the being realizing, okay, the melodies are not enough, and imagine a musician who has played the instrument in so many different ways but is still not satisfied. So what happens, begins to question their karma, they begin to question their own purpose, they begin to question, like, is it one of those things? But then I was like, okay, maybe it's that life is trying to tell me, oh, you who have spoken about the future, oh, you who have attached, out of all the things in this lifetime, you have attached yourself to the future, cannot renounce the future. Because if I do, there is nothing here. And I don't know what the other side is doing. I don't know if it's an intent, you know, it's like, I don't know if the world wants me to experience defeats or victories. But all I know is that there's an ability here, there was an ability here, and what happened? What happened? You know, I don't know if anybody's ever had this feeling where they've had tears run down their face, but they felt the tears are laughing at them. Imagine your own tears laughing at you. You know, at some point, if the inner realm doesn't adjust, then the being just waits for their end. You know, it's like, how long do you wait for a miracle? And the worst feeling is when you go all out and yet feel unworthy. And I don't know, maybe it's like the lifetime is like you drank a cup of tea, and then what are you left with? An empty shell of an ambition. I had I don't know why twice I've had this intuitive inner vision that after I die, there will be two armies, not here, not in this dimension. I think this is in the Bardo or Antar Loka. I had this feeling that there would be a war. I don't know if it's like, imagine two armies trying to claim a being. Oh, man. Maybe I just have to accept life is becoming less important. I don't know which one it is.